So I came across a video on YouTube of this K-pop producer called Poppy Lee, who produced for super popular groups like Super Junior and Girls' Generation, talking about different K-pop chords. So I thought I'd make a video talking about what I learned and just how K-pop makes simple chords sound more complex and just melodic and awesome. So I'm going to start with a simple progression and just keep building on it. Let's get started. So a common chord progression in K-pop is the 4, 3 major, 6, just like on the song Ditto that I played earlier from the super popular K-pop group New Jeans. But I'm actually going to add a 1 chord here, so in this case playing the key of C would be the C chord. Just adding it to make the progression sound more full versus having an odd number of chords, 3 chords. And in this case I'm playing on the guitar, so I'm using the 3rd position on my guitar for a brighter tone, which is super common among J-pop songs, but it's also used on some K-pop songs that way. So this progression with the K-pop beat was go like. Now a bad start. So we can play this progression in any other key too. So for example in C we have these 4 chords, F, E, A minor, C. If we want to play this progression in D, we just take everything up 2 steps. So we got G, G flat major, B minor, and then D major. So that was a good start, but it doesn't have a super strong K-pop sound or just interesting sound yet. So I'm going to make each chord in the progression a 7th chord, and let's see how that sounds. Now that's sounding way more like it. So what I'm doing here is I'm making the 1st chord, the 4th chord, a major 7th. And then all the rest of the chords 7th. So we got E major, E7, A minor 7, C major, C7. Now of course this will work on a different key too. So in D that would be the G major 7, G flat 7, B minor 7, and then D7. One cool thing to call out here is notice how I'm playing the chords close together versus far apart. So I'm playing them all here. Versus how I could be playing them far apart with bar shapes, like. This is a trick in jazz where if you play the chords close together and have them share more of the same notes versus far apart, you get a more cohesive sound that sounds just way more melodic and beautiful. Just like in J-pop, K-pop takes a lot of inspiration from jazz, hence the use of 7 chords is common in both genres. If you're interested in the similarities between J-pop and K-pop, check out this video where I talk about a popular J-pop progression that starts off with a 4-3-6-2. Now we're not done yet. Just by adding a 7th chord, it still does not sound iconically Korean. Like I said earlier, like a lot of Japanese songs do this too, or it could be another Western song, like a jazz song. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a 9th note on top of the 7th note to each chord, which is a common trick done in K-R&B, also inspired by jazz. Let's see how it sounds. Sounds way more interesting. So the 1st chord, the F, instead of just playing it with the major 7th note, I'm actually using open strings to get this 7th note on the high E string, and then on the G string, getting the 9th note. So I got lucky here where I'm happen to be playing a F chord, so then the open strings are 7th and 9th notes just nicely, conveniently. But if I'm playing a different key or playing a different chord, I might not be as lucky. So here's a shape that does not require the use of open strings. With a root note on the A string, and the 7th note here on the G string, and then on the B string we got the 9th note. Next we got this E major chord. But again, instead of just playing with the 7th note, I'm moving it up here for an E7 flat 9 sound. So we got the 7th note here, and then the flat 9 note here. It sounds scary, but how I like to think about this chord is just that it's really just a C7 shape. So C, C7. But you just move it up to whatever chord you're trying to play with the root note on the A string. So here, move it up here for the E. And I just move my index finger up 1 fret. And there we got it. We got the kind of this 7 flat 9 sound. And in this case, I'm playing the E chord, so I'm leaving the open string open since it happens to be a an E note, which is the first note of the chord. It only works though if you're using a progression in the key that includes the E note. After that, we got this A minor 9 chord. So instead of playing the A minor down here with the 7th note, we actually play up here on the 5th fret. And fortunately, again, here we're able to use the open strings. So we got the 7th note here and the 9th note here. But again, if we're in a different key, we might need to be more flexible. So here are two other ways to play it. One way is to use the bar shape, and then include the 9th note. So here's the 7th note, here's the 9th note. Another way is to put the root note on the A string. So use a shape, and then do it like that. Very jazzy way to play it. So 7th note here, and then 9th note here. Finally, we got this C7 flat 9 chord. And again, it's just the same shape as this E7 flat 9 chord, but brought down 2 whole steps. So the root note becomes the C note. And again, here is just a C7 chord with the index finger brought up 1 fret. And I like to use the open E string too, because E happens to be in the key of C, which is the key this progression is in. And again, we can play this chord progression in a different key scale, just that we cannot rely on open strings like I talked about, like as if we're in the key of C. So it would sound more like... We're almost there. So to further smoothen out this progression, one thing I'm going to do is to add a transition note between the final chord, the C, and the first chord, which is the F. So it will go something like... So all I did there was halfway through playing the last chord, the C7 flat 9 chord, I add a passing note, which is the F sharp note, which is just half step or 1 fret above the next chord I'm trying to get to, the F chord, to smoothen out that transition. It's a common trick that happens in jazz, and in this case, one that K-pop's borrowing, where to transition between 2 chords and make it sound smoother, we take a chromatic note that's in between the 2 bass notes of the 2 chords. So in this case, we got a C chord transitioning to an F chord. And then in this case, we just pick one that's in between but closest to the F, so F sharp. But we can also pick other notes. To summarize, to make your chords sound more complex and interesting, try using the 7th and 9th chord extensions. And within a progression, try using passing bass notes in between your chords. And if you're interested in learning about other cool chords to use, check out this video where I talk about iconic chords using J-pop. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.